controlled articular rotations. I'm going to do total body, follow along, and we'll start with the toes. So first of all, I'm going to sit myself down or even standing up, always good. I'm going to press the big toe into the floor and lift the smaller toes. Bring the smaller toes down and lift up the big toe. Again. That. Switch sides. Let's see how I do here. Big toe in the floor, smaller toes up, smaller toes down, big toe up. It's harder on the left for me. And press down. Ankle. So I'm going to grab my arm under my knee, grab the left arm, and I want to place some fingers on the shin bone right here, because I don't want the shin bone to move a lot. If I move my ankle completely to the side, my shin bone will turn out. And I want to focus only on the ankle joint and make as big of a circle as I can with the ankle joint without using the shin bone, because otherwise I'm also using my knee, and that is for later. So I'll just put my fingers here so I will feel when I get too much motion of the shin bone, and I make slowly the biggest circle that I can. I'll go to the other side. So it's always very good to imagine that the air is about 30 to 50% more dense than it actually is. So you have to really kind of wrestle yourself through the air. If you don't create any tension, it'll have a little less effect. So please imagine the air is about 30% more dense than it actually is, especially if you're doing it in the morning. You could imagine about 30% more density, and cars are a great way of warming up your joints before a workout. So if you use them as a warm-up for a workout, you can go about 50% more dense. Really wrestle yourself through the air, and it'll get you a good warm-up using full range of motion through all of your joints, or the joints that you're going to use a lot in training. Is a great way of getting yourself ready for exercise. And if you want to target one specific area and really go work on the mobility of that area, you can even go up to 100, like extremely hard. Then it becomes a workout. So depending on your goals and the time of the day when you're performing it, you want to do them a bit more softer or really, really intense. So we had toes, ankle. I'm going to go up to the knee joint right now. So here, I come into the same position as I did the ankle. I will flex my foot to the side. Now I'll grab this hand behind the knee like a choke hold. I'm going to lift up, and my foot stays laterally flexed. And I'm lifting up until the point where my body can, I'm pretty flexible right here. But if you're rotated to the side completely, it won't be possible to fully extend the knee And it is not a hamstring exercise, it's a knee exercise. So you go up until the point where it's comfortable, and the leg is not pressing out into your arms. If you lack a little bit of mobility, the leg will start pressing out, and then you have to really hold it. That's not the point here. So I make it comfortable. What I want is the shin bone to move relative to the knee. So I laterally flex, I lift in the air. I'm gonna laterally flex to the other side, and my shin bone moves with it. So you see a little bit of rotation happening in the shin bone. I stay flexed to that side, up and down. That is the motion of the knee. Other side. That's actually rotation. Here, switch in the air, back. Stay here. Up, switch in the air, back. Up, switch, back, and the shin bone is moving. I'm not forcing anything. My leg isn't really pressing into my arms. There we go. Now we've got hip. There's a couple of ways to do the hip, and I'll just show you a couple of ways. I'll stand myself up. Here's where you can see me. So I want a stable surface. My mat here is a little bit more unstable, so I want to really be able to focus on my hips, so I'll just get a stable surface. If stability is sometimes a problem for you, it's best to hold on to something. And here again, it's really important to create tension. I'm going to want to use the right hip, then the left hip, to create as big of a circle as I can. Important is that I'm going to trap some air in my lower abdomen region, right here. Trap some air, tense up a bit, maybe make fists, to really, you're going to tensify the whole body to get the most motion out of this one joint that you want to use. So a hip car standing would be like this. I'm going to totally extend the left leg, completely locked out. I'm going to flex the hip up as high as I can. Then I start rotating out. This hip is not moving with me, you see? I always make sure that this hip points forward. So I go up, out, stays pointing forward. I make fists. Here comes the hard part. I'm going to internally rotate and trying to keep the knee as high as possible. I'm internally rotating. The knee drops a little bit because that is just the only movement my hip allows, but it stays as high as possible for me. My ankle comes to the same height as my knee, and I am not trying to bend to the side too much. I'm trying to stay upright. That was the third. And then I'm going to hip extension, like I want to donkey kick something behind me. I don't want to use my back. I just use the available weight range in my hip, so that is until my glute is really active, and just full activation of the glute, but not the lower back. So that one more time, up, out, rotate, 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 extend back, and then I complete the circle. So that's up, out, can reverse backwards, extension, abduction, and I'll start to rotate in, up, and bring the knee back here. Alright, I'll do the other leg, and I'll give you a side view of this. Right leg is completely up straight. I'm going to flex up, out, internal rotation. This is where you really want to start fighting. I want to stay upright and just slowly turn the leg in, then go into extension, full activation of the glute, and I finish off the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, up and backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna feel what your hip wants to do and doesn't want to do. Different hips means different circles. There's gonna be female dancers who make the biggest circle, who have, you have shallow hip sockets, you have deep hip sockets. It's all gonna promote a different kind of movement. You just want to feel that your femur, your thigh bone, just rotates in the hip socket like, makes the biggest circle as it can, without you trying to compensate all over. Now, there was a standing one. You can also do it on your knees, create tension, extend up, out, without. This could be good to do against the wall or like right next to a wall, 5 to 10 centimeters from the wall, because a lot of the times when you open up the hip, you're going to want to lean to the side. Keep your elbows locked, and if you touch the wall, then you know you have compensated a bit by leaning to the side. Up, open, rotation, and now this is another variation. I prefer the standing one very much, but this one is also very good. Or with the other leg, one last variation. I can be here, extend this leg, flex up from the knee, open up, internal rotation slowly, trying to keep the knee as close to my shoulder as possible. Extension without falling over, because if you're sidelining, the chances are that you kind of roll over and lose your balance. So you really have to have that counterweight here, a little bit to the front, so that you don't fall. But also very good way of doing things if you're not so stable on one leg, for example. All good things to toy with. After the hip, we go to the spine. There's two variations, two different ways of moving the spine. First is in rotation, the second is just straight up and down. So I'll do the rotation first. I'm gonna be sitting on, this is actually perfectly fine to do this sitting on your knees like this or standing up. But remember, now it's only the spine I want to that move. Flex forward as much as you can. Rotate to the side. Laterally flex. Make a circle. You finish laterally flexed and rotated on the other side. I'm really sore from back bending yesterday, and I feel it in this movement, so I'll not go too hard and too far, but it's great to open things up a bit again. I'm gonna rotate to the left. I'm gonna laterally flex, gonna go into extension. I'll finish laterally flex and rotate it to the other side. Side view. Flex forward. Rotate. Laterally flex. Extension. Other side. There we have that. Then, this is kind of cat camel from yoga, but with the only difference that in yoga we're trying to go all at one piece. For controlled articular rotations, the word says it itself, you're trying to articulate, which means that I'm going to try to move one vertebrae at a time to the best of my abilities. There's people who really can move one vertebrae at a time. I'm not there yet, but that's the intent, and that's where you want to go slowly. So imagine yourself always starting from the hips, and I'm going to start to posteriorly tilt or tilt backwards. So first the hip, lower back, mid back, and then upper back, neck, returning, hips, lower back, mid back, upper back, neck, important. One important thing to realize is the scapula is not protracting whenever I'm doing this, or not completely retracting whenever I'm in this shape. They should, or you should aim to keep them kind of in one place. Of course, when you're extending, they're going to be a little bit more erring to the side of retraction, and on the other side they're going to err a little bit more on protraction. But actually, I'm not actively pushing them out, because that in that regard I would be doing a scapular movement, and I want to move my spine. So if you'll see, I'll pick a spot of my scaps in between, then I'll start moving my spine. There's still some room here. Then I go back. I'll try to make it work one vertebrae at a time as much as I can. And there's still room here. So if you feel that you're working a lot with the scapulas, you know that there's a little bit of work to do to try and isolate the spine. And remember, it's always a work in progress. If they move too much, if you can't help but pressing them out or something, know that it's just something to be mindful for, but you will probably not be able to change that in one session. If you do this routine daily, week in, week out, probably after 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to be able to control yourself a considerable amount more than when you started. That was the spine. Then we can go over to the shoulder girdle and all that stuff. So scapula, really easy. What I want to do is keep my hands close to my body and my arms. So I'm actually just right to the side right here. My fists are next to my hips, and my fists don't want to do this. Don't want to go to the knees and back. They actually want to stay in this area right here. I want to extend the elbows. A lot of people work like this, but I only want the scapula to move. So extended elbows. I'm going to go up, elevate, protract to the front, deep press down, retract. I'll make as big of circles as I can. If you watch my fists, they're kind of staying in the same place. My elbows stay locked. I'm not going here with my chest. Other side. I'll make as big of circles as I can. There we are. From the scapula, we'll go over to the glenohumeral joints or the shoulder. This one, actually, my shoulder relaxed a little bit, so I'm going to be moving a little bit in this plane. But your goal is to move as much in this plane as possible. So you want to try to stay as much here and just make your circle here instead of falling out. But most shoulders will fall out, and that is something that can improve over time, and I'm working on it right now. It is a good idea to work 20 centimeters from the wall or something, or even more, and you're trying to clear the wall without touching it, you know? And it's always like this, completely extended elbow. I'm going to flex up, thumb back, until I can't flex any further. It's a good thing to work here a little bit in the shoulder flexion. I'm going to internally rotate as much as I can. Here I am. Then I will draw as big of a circle as I can using my shoulder only, while continuously keeping to rotate internally. I am rotating, 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 rotating. I'll end up in extension right here. I keep internal rotation, and I end up with my pinky forward. I'm going to go back into extension without rotating back until I feel a stretch on the shoulder. I'm going to rotate out and bring my palm here. Flexion, internal rotation. So what I want to do is, you're going to see my chest move a little bit, but I do not want to clear like this. I don't want to go out of the way. I want to use my shoulder. I want to feel it work. Other side, I will give you side view. Flexion, internal rotation. Every centimeter that I am moving, I am internally rotating more. I'm trying to keep my body pretty still. There's always going to be some movement, but we're going to see and notice a big difference if when you're trying to stay still, or when you're just like trying to clear your way out of it, you know? Very important one. Especially right before workouts, just in general. Shoulder has a lot of range of motion, has a lot of movement capabilities, and you're really making your shoulder stronger in every direction that you can make it stronger in, using this controlled rotation. So perfect as warm-ups to really get the joint ready for whatever movement or sport that you're doing. Then we're going to the elbows. Going to supinate out, and keep my arms close to my body. I'm going to flex up and keep supinating, which means bringing the pinky, turning it towards my shoulder as much as I can. So I'm really rotating the forearms. I'm staying flexed and I'm pronating as much as I can. So now the thumbs turn in as much as I can. I keep the upper arm close to my body and I extend down. Supination, up, both sides. What you should see is this. The thumb is here, I'm rotating out, the pinky is here, in, out. Then the wrist, I'll only do the right hand because the left thumb is kind of injured and I don't have a lot of motion in this wrist right now, which terribly sucks, but yeah, it'll get better if I just let it rest. Wrist, flex up, get a little bit of side motion in here, extend down. It's not easy to do wrists. A lot of the times you're going to want to rotate from the forearms and make it like this dinosaur hand. If you're thinking when you're doing wrists that you always want to stay ninja hand, so I'm going up, ninja. This is dinosaur, don't want that, ninja. And that's how you make your circles. Another thing is, you're going to want to move your forearm a lot of times. So you can choose to, do I have something? Yes. Get something on your arm that can fall. Now you're making your circles without letting it fall. That's how you know you're not using the forearm too much. Alright? And then the only thing that we have left is the neck. You could also do some finger work if you want. Just lifting them up one by one. But yeah, it's not something that is, yeah, you can do every joint in the body and just use it, or you can even like make circles. But I don't usually do my fingers, I train them in other ways. But the neck is an also very, very important one. A lot of people have a lot of neck problems, including myself, from a lot of sports. Always a little bit of tight in different directions, especially lateral flexion because of the trapezius muscles. So yeah, it's always a good thing to work on that. And it's always the same strategy. Keep your mouth closed, otherwise you won't be stretching the neck as much as you can. Flex down, laterally flex, and then start rotating your chin towards your collarbone. Try to clear your collarbone. Stretch your throat. And up on the other side. Past your collarbone, towards your collarbone, back to the front. Here I'm back to basics. Laterally flex, rotate. Other side. Feel that I really need this today, so I'll probably do a hell of a lot more circles today. But again, don't start moving your entire body. Go goal is to only move your neck. And those were your controlled articular rotations. Depending on the time you have or the moment in the day where you want to do them, when you get up in the morning, every joint, 3 to 5 circles. That is your goal. 30%, the air is 30% more dense than it really is. That's what you're imagining in the morning. 30% more dense, 3 to 5 circles on every joint. Before a warm-up, intensify up and do mostly the area that you're gonna use most. If you're gonna do a lot of upper body strength, of course you're gonna do your scaps, your glenohumeral joint, your wrist, your elbow, your neck, your thoracic, okay? And leg work, of course, the hip circles, really important, ankles. So yeah, use your cars as a good warm-up tool for whichever activity that you're doing, but most importantly, do them every morning when you get out of bed, 3 to 5 circles in every direction.